Paintsandglitter, and I am here today just to say a quick hello to my crafty friends and to do a little bit of live crafting. I am working on I guess you would call it a commissioned project. So if anyone stops by, just feel free to say hello. I'll try to find my own video as I've done in the past. And this is not a video that I have announced, so if you happen to chime in, just to let you know, this is just me crafting. And I see there's one person here, so I'm going to mute myself, of course, so I forget to do that all the time. So please feel free to say hello. I welcome you to my channel if you're new here. I am going to just be playing around, and of course, as I always say, if you have any questions for me, then I'm happy to respond to them. I am going to have to adjust my camera a little bit, so if you could bear with me. I didn't realize that you're only seeing half of my workspace here, and I don't want any issues with that. And okay, so I'm going to start working here, and what I'm going to do first is, of course, show what I am working on, which is this here, and it is a mermaid theme invitation. So I want to make sure that you can see that. And it's going to be a very simple invitation. Let me see if I can, okay, here we go. So it's got a lot of color, as you can tell, and a lot of texture. I love working with images like this because then I get to play with my inks. And I'm going to start also by showing you how I was able to make that mermaid, and that is by using this die set here. It's called the Marina Layering Die Set, and this is from Tonic Studios. It is not a new release, but you may or may not be familiar with that. And then I'm using Distress Oxides in colors that I really like, and also the colors that I was asked to use, which were in the blues and pinks and that sort of thing. So I've actually used, let me show you here. With this die set, you can cut a number of circles, as you see here. And they're all very nice in the fact that there's a lot of detail to them. And I've only used three dies in this collection, to be exact. One of them cuts like this. And this is not yet adhered because this is going to be an option. It's not 100% sure that I'm going to be using this, but although I'm leaning toward a yes. I see that I have two people here. I'm going to ask that you please say hello, not because of any other reason other than I want to be able to say hi and not ignore you as I craft here. So this is, as you can tell, it is the conch, and then two seashells here on the sides, and then two smaller ones in on the edges here. And this is absolutely stunning. Oh, hi Sandra. Thank you for saying hello. I truly appreciate it. And then the other image that you see here, let me show you how it cuts in the white cardstock. Yes, it is a beautiful die, Sandra. I agree with that. Now, what I really liked about this is the fact that you can definitely tinker around with these kinds of... Oh, hi, Joanne. Joanne, I saw your video. This is a side note here, and I laughed so hard, sweetie. You have, I was gonna tell you, my mother would say you have the patience of Job because what you're going through with that punch board, oh my Lord. So just to let you know, Joanne, I did check the tracking, and you should be receiving something very soon, and God willing, it will be useful to you. So anyway, my heart broke when I saw your video. I was like, seriously, you have a lot of resilience and patience. So if you guys, Sandra, if you guys should follow one another, because I just love supporting other crafters, of course, and anyone with that great a sense of humor definitely deserves more subscribers. So if you rewatch this video, please go follow the Crafty Sensei. So I wanted to show you, okay, so the mermaid here, you can cut her out of this background if you really wanted to, and there are other things, oh, you're welcome, doll. There are other things you can do with this, and I wish I could show you another card that I made. However, I think I've got it in a box, and because I try to keep samples sometimes of the things that I make, you can back her up with different colors, and let me show you what I mean by that, of course. Okay, so let's just say that, oh, wonderful, Sandra. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love it when, you know, people are supportive of one another. So let's just say that you wanted to follow her up with purple as a detail here. Then, of course, you could back up the die. You want that cut out, Sandra? Leave me a message. Leave me your details on paintsandglitter@gmail.com, okay? I hope you're in the US. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, she's very delicate, and I love the features because she's got the little bun with kind of little pieces of hair dangling there. I just thought it was really delicate and beautiful, and this is gonna be for a really classy birthday, so I thought that this image was absolutely perfect. And so what I did here, as you can tell, I'll bring this one closer, is that I backed her up on the other circle, which turns out to be the background. I have it colored here, so I'm going to show you guys how I'm working on that. And this cuts out with the partner die that cuts this one, because you need 2 dies from this collection to be able to cut this out. They Tonic Studios calls these dies verso dies, meaning that the die will cut into the paper but will not cut out the border, but then you do have that option. So I'll show you what I mean in case you are unfamiliar. Now, the hardest thing for me, of course, is getting them out of the packaging, but to others it's not, so that's why I go into detail on my videos, because this is how I learn. I have to have somebody show me every single aspect. So here's the one that cuts the border, and it looks like, uh-oh, am I still on? I hope I am. I have a lag on my video, but I'm hoping that I'm still on. You guys let me know if I disconnect. Well, if I disconnected, there's no way you can let me know, but hopefully, hopefully I didn't. Oh gosh, I'm having a lag on my computer, so I'm not sure. But this cuts out the border. I'm just going to continue on. And that's the same border you see here, and it's beautiful because it's a nice scallop border. And then, oh, thank you, Sandra. And then this cuts out the actual mermaid. So Sandra, you're absolutely right in the sense that you can use this to create, yes, you can use this to create a tunnel effect, especially, for instance, if you like making shakers. These dies are perfect for that, because then you can cut this out of a much bigger circle with a wider brim, and then you don't have to worry about having to hide, you know, the layers and that sort of thing. So another really cool tip with that. So, and never mind the fact that you get 3 circles that are scalloped like this, which you don't have to use with the mermaid dies. You can use them however you like, of course. So that's the first one that I'm using, and then I'm using the background, of course, as I just mentioned. Then I'm using the next size up, and I'll show you guys that one. I guess I should have had them all out, but I never prepare for these. This is just, you know, me winging it. So I did use the next size up with the matching circle. It looks like this. So as you can tell, it does not cut an inner circle, and I hope you can see that. But it does cut all of those gorgeous shells. So I'm going to show you what that looks like up close. And I mean, it just keeps getting prettier from there. So what I did here was that I cut that shape out, and I'm just realizing that I didn't cut a second one in white. So I apologize, guys. I'm going to have to cut another one out so I can show it to you in white. But then I use the circle, of course, to cut it out. And then I use that same large circle to cut out the backing. And this is what I used for the backing. And this is this glitter paper. It's a chunky glitter paper. And this is from Hobby Lobby. So I'm going to look at my video to make sure that I'm up to speed here, because I have a severe lag. So if you guys could bear with me, I just want to make sure, because I don't see the chat either. And I apologize if I've been. Then of course the inks, these two being oxides, also mean they're water reactive. This is probably not news to anyone, but it does give it a really cool quality to the ink. So I'm going to quickly cut one of these larger ones because I'm going to need it for what I'm going to show you guys. And if you could bear with me, I just need one of these. I didn't realize that I had not cut another one of these big ones. I thought I was all set. Oh, it's going in and out. Okay, thank you for letting me know as you disconnect and then reconnect, and I'm hoping that happened, but let me double check. In the meantime, let's see here. Okay, on my end, it looks like I'm still connected. So I'm going to just run this through my machine, and I'm using my Empress, which is just an electronic die cutting machine, but you probably get the gist of it. You make your sandwich with your die, and that way you can cut your paper. I'm also using, for reference, hi Anastasia, welcome, welcome, glad to see you here. I'm using mixed media paper, and this is a 117-pound paper, and this is really important when you are doing anything that has to do with inking, because of course you can use regular cardstock. There's nothing saying that you can't, but if you're going to be adding liquid color, meaning water-based color, that's what I meant to say, then you're going to want to be able to have paper that's not going to break down on you if you get it wet, and hence the use of the mixed media paper. So I'm just cleaning this up a little bit. This is just my little brush here so that I can remove all of the excess. So you can imagine how many little bits of paper you're going to get when you cut this out. But the great thing is that these dies do cut nice, very accurately. You may have to remove the little bits there, but the whole thing in one pass cut perfectly. So that's another thing that I like about Tonic dies. And there we are. Now, as I mentioned before, it doesn't cut the inner circle. So if you wanted to make a card with just this piece here and then stamp a sentiment, you're good to go. You don't need to do much more than that. And I know that some ladies like to make monochromatic cards, as I do. So if you were to do this with a piece of paper and then the next one just one shade darker or one shade lighter, it would look so beautiful. And I just love the detail there. So moving on, let's go ahead and just gonna set this aside for 1 second. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is a little cheater thing, I'd love to give tips when I'm crafting too. This kind of die, and I'm gonna try to hold it up close here. If you see here, it has all of these little holes. They do not cut out, they emboss into your paper. So I learned this from Jennifer McGuire, which is that when you're gonna run it through, go ahead and place washi tape on, just on that bit where you want it to emboss. Okay, so that's how I would run it through, is I cover those little holes with the washi tape and then go ahead and cut through. And what's gonna happen is that little bit, tiny bit of adhesive, believe it or not, will pull your paper just enough, not only to help it cut accurately, but also to do that little bit of embossing that you need on the paper without having to run it through twice to emboss something so delicately. So that's a lot of fun. So I'm reading here, was the other one finished? Anastasia, are you referring to the other card? Or is it another live? Because I know I know that a lot of people go live, and I'm sorry that I did not announce this one. Oh, you're very welcome, Sandra. Yes, if I learn something, I want to share it too, because it helps. You know, who doesn't like, you know, having the inside tips, you know? Or however you say that. Okay, so here's what I was doing, of course, is adding color to these. Now, I already got started, and as you can tell, I've got my work cut out for me because I have 20 of these to make. So what I started with was my blue ink here, and I'm using Broken China. Oh, you're very welcome. Very, very welcome. Yes, the washi tape. Yeah, washi tape is, I joke around and say it hides all the crafty sins, you know. The washi tape is so versatile. It's just incredible. So, you know, when people make the lists of the things I refuse to craft without, washi tape is probably number 2 on my list. It's, you know, to me, it's an essential. And the other thing is the rubber eraser. If you're unfamiliar with this, let me know and I can describe that as well. So as you can tell there, I started with my blue, and again, that's broken china. And oh, here's my other one. This is my cracked pistachio. It's one of my favorite colors. And yes, the embossing, you can run it separately with the embossing mat, which is this right here. Okay, and that produces a nice deep embossing. However, if it's something really delicate like this, and I'll show you what I mean, when you run it through again, because see how many times I had to do it? I mean, girlfriend, can you imagine me running this through my machine twice every single time to emboss every single one of these little mermaids? I mean, who's got time for that? Yes, the eraser tip is that if you are crafting with any kind of adhesive, you need to have an adhesive eraser. So this looks like the ugliest thing. I mean, it's disgusting looking, and I'm aware of that, but all this is adhesive. And, you know, you can clean it off by just tearing off the pieces. But say you get a little nick of adhesive and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that landed there. This just wipes it right off. Or even if your paper gets dirty from your cutting mat, you know how your cutting mat will absorb sometimes little bits and pieces that are not very pretty? Then this will take it right off. You know, you just rub it on your paper and your paper's pristine, it's clean, and you're good to go. So definitely if you're working, well, the just to let you guys know, the what is it, the Dollar General or the Dollar Tree, one of those dollar stores is now carrying these, which normally go for $3 to $4. So that's a really awesome buy. And again, another essential. I mean, there's a reason why some projects look like, you know, there couldn't possibly be a mistake on them. Don't be fooled. It's all in the tools that you use. So here I'm placing the green. As you can tell, what I did was that I just placed it right kind of in the middle there. And this is it's going to be a very light background. Oh shoot, I wish I had known that, Johanna. Well, you know what? I'll bear that in mind. So yes, Amazon carries them. I think just about every scrapbooking company carries those erasers. But if I see them at the dollar store, I'll pick some up, because as I have mentioned before and on this channel, is that I appreciate everyone's support. I absolutely know, I understand how YouTube works, okay? So if there's no one watching, there's no way that my channel can remain as it is and never, you know, or grow. So I'm very well aware of that, and what I decided to do is that instead of holding giveaways on my channel, I'm just doing random acts of kindness, random, you know, surprises here and there, because I feel like the ones, you know, the people who tune in, people who watch the channel, those are the ones that I really want to thank, rather than the ones that just subscribe for 5 minutes, do the giveaway, and then are never to be seen again. And that's, you know, that's just a personal choice. Tonic. Oh, is it the Tonic's sold out? Yes, and Phil. Hi, Phil. I agree with you. The eraser, I'm sorry, the rubber eraser, that one I think is older than my child. So that's another thing, is that you're gonna get sick of it, but it'll be there. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and blend with the blue, because I am leaning more toward blue in this project than any other color. So I'm just taking whatever's left on my little sponge here and spreading that color around. Now, one thing I'm going to mention about these inks is that we all have oils on our hands. So wherever the oils from your hands land, any moisture, it's going to show on your paper because this is water reactive ink. So bear that in mind. I try to work quickly, even though I can't right now because I'm talking and I can't, you know, walk and chew gum at the same time, but I'm just doing a very light wash of color here. So, and I'm only going to do a couple of samples because I'm having a little bit of issues with my back. Sadly, it seems to be the thing, the in thing. So if I'm hoping to make it through this video. So I'm going to appreciate y'all's patience. So who else is there? Tuesday morning. Yes, Sandra, my Tuesday morning closed. Oh, Lord, I thought I was going to have a conniption fit. But there's one a little bit farther away. It's just, you know, it's a bit of an inconvenience now to go. And I live far away from anything as it is, so I'm relying more and more on internet shopping, which is, as you guys know, with delivery times, and as the crafty sensei knows better than ever anyone else, it can be a little bit inconvenient. Oh, Lord. So, okay, so I've got my background here. Now let's move on to the Mermaid. Hi, Sandra Ospina. Yes, welcome, Sandra. I don't know if it's your first time here, but welcome, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and use the similar colors here, but here's what I'm going to do with this one, is that I'm going to take an alcohol marker first. See if I can find one that has ink. Let's see here. I think this one's gonna work. Okay, so just on what is supposedly her skin color, even though who knows what the skin color is on a mermaid, whatever. Let's just go with that because she's gonna have a little bit of a tan there. And this is with someone specific in mind, so that's why I went with that color. You can, of course, use whatever color you like, but yeah, it's kind of hard to purchase something if it's your first time buying it, to buy it online. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to start there, and of course you can see that's a very loose way of coloring, but it's okay because the rest of her is going to have shades of blue, the same as I did before. So I'm going to start with a little bit of blue here, and as you can tell, I'm kind of dragging it in from the outside or the perimeter there. And it's going to be here and there. Of course, I've got to be gentle with this because I don't want to ruin it. But you guys will see the results in a minute. Okay, then before I go too crazy with the blue, I'm going to switch over to yellow. Just a tiny bit here. And of course the background's going to get some ink on it, so you kind of have to be careful with that when you're using several colors. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of yellow. And then I'm going to switch to the green again. If I can find my green, here it is. And I feel like a goofball for not having more of these around. You would think I would, but now I'm just going to focus on the center here with the green. And I know that it's difficult to see in the video, but there is some texture that's already starting to show up on that mermaid. But here's what I do to kind of compensate for that, is that I use more than one medium when I'm coloring. So, and you guys will see what I mean in a moment, but I'm going to now switch to a tiny bit deeper blue, and this is called Blueprint Sketch. The others, by the way, were Squeeze Lemonade, Broken China, and Cracked Pistachio. I am not sure if I mentioned that before, but I'm going to give it a tiny touch of this. Oh, so sorry, Phil. Yeah, I understand. It's crazy. I mean, but you know what? I feel... Wait, Phil, are you from Australia? I can't remember now. Yeah. I mean, I remember, because I remember near here one time, I went to the post office to say, okay, what's going on with the deliveries and whatnot. And the postman told me, well, they closed down, you know, this was quite a while ago. They had closed down so many post offices that now I live in upstate New York, and I found out that all of our mail goes to Michigan first. Because that makes sense. But anyway, what are you going to do? Okay, so I did mention that I use more than one medium, and that these are water reactive inks. Now, here's what I have on the side. These are wickety old, what do you call these? It's a palette of glittery, it's kind of like a watercolor pan, but it does have that glitter effect to it. So I want to let you guys know, Prima sells the same thing with less colors, and it's the same exact thing. I've just had this forever and a day. So, and what I'll do is I'll try to link these products below, of course, when I'm done with the video. So, I'm sorry that I don't have an assistant to put the links on for me, but this is what I do. I always have a little bottle of water on the side, because when you're working with watercolors, you want to activate the color. And in this case, everyone gets a shower, even though I'm not using them all. But I also have water in here. Now the water here, I can sort of control by squeezing it, but I just like to have my paints ready before I start playing around. And I've got my paper towel. And I'm going to zoom in for this because you guys probably can't see a single thing that I'm doing here. So let's go with that. Hopefully that's a little bit better. And I think it looks a little washed out now that I zoomed in, but let's see here. Yeah, Sandra. Oh, okay. So Phil, you're in Ireland. So yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, depending on where you live, it can be so extremely different in your experiences with online shopping. I mean, I think the vendors are trying to do the best they can. It's just so difficult with everything that's going on right now to have that reliability, really, and as far as the timelines go. It varies greatly. Sometimes I get things from overseas that take, in fact, I get things from the UK sometimes that take a shorter amount of time to arrive to me than things from California. So that's just how it goes. All right, so here I'm just adding, again, tone on tone. So wherever I had my yellow ink, I'm adding a little bit of highlight here with that yellow watercolor. Now I'm going to do the same with the blue. And I'm going with a deeper blue than I have here in certain areas. And what's really cool about it is that, again, since these are water reactive inks, then that oxide thing is going to kick in and it's going to give me almost like a marble look. And of course, this is the part that is so much fun that I could literally spend hours and hours and hours just doing this, but I shouldn't, because it's not effective when you're making 20 some odd cards. But it is a lot of fun. And of course you can lighten and darken however you like, because you're not limited to doing tone on tone either. If you want to add a little bit more blue to the yellow, you can do that. You can have a lot of fun with that. So there's that. And I think I had a little bit of darker blue. It's almost like a purpley blue in her hair. I think that's what I had done before. I can't remember now. So let me know, guys. Do any of you guys paint? Seeing as this is Paints and Glitter, now I guess you know why, right? So I just love adding different mediums to what I'm making, of course. That's the fun of it for me. But let me see. Okay, so I have kind of like and I'm sorry if this is out of frame. I'm using this color, which is kind of like a lime green. I'm using this, which is similar to, I would equate this a little bit to the Salty Ocean Ranger ink. And then I'm using this one here, which is the only yellow that I have. It's almost a gold tone. Paint by numbers. Hey, you know what? Don't knock it. It's something. Oh gosh. We all have to start somewhere. Paint is my first love, so I enjoy it far more than anything else in terms of crafting. I just don't so much incorporate it into what I do on this channel, but that may or may not change in the future. I'm kind of, I don't know. There's so much that I like that it's difficult to hone in on just one thing when it comes to creativity or crafting. Okay, so the same goes for this background. You can do a larger wash, if you will, with this. So what that means is I'm just going to drop a whole lot more water, and you can, this is what's great about this glass mat also in the background, is that I can make a nice big puddle for myself. And since this has a pearlescent finish, all I have to do is just kind of run my brush over it. And what I want to make sure happens is that it stays wet. And this is where also the kind of paper that I have is going to make a big difference. If I did this on regular cardstock, I would have it would be messy by now. It would not be anything pretty to look at. Unless you want that texture, of course, you know. But it would pile up really quickly. The other option, of course, is to wet the paper and do wet on wet. Now remember how I had the oxide inks? Now this is going to get that puddled look to it, which, because this is a mermaid theme, it's just fun, you know. Who cares that it has texture? It's all going to work together because you're working with the same colors. You know, you can mix the green, mix your blue, and again, these are very light washes of color, so nothing is going to look wrong. And that's the freedom in painting, you know, is that you discover these things as you go, and no two of them are going to look alike anyway, so why try? Just have fun with it, you know? So once they dry, this one's going to look more striated, of course, because it was drier. And then this one's going to look more mottled, but in any case, it'll look really cute. So I'm going to do just one more, just to show you one more way. If you're not into the brushing, then that's okay too. You can just take your piece of paper, create your puddle on your table, and I'm just going to add a tiny bit more water. Just kind of wake that up. And then place your paper right on top like this. And some people do this with acetate. I'm just not that neat. I get my fingers that look like a crazy mess by the time I'm done, all right? But there's another way of going about it. And if you don't like, the texture left behind with the puddling that happens, then you can, of course, go in with the brush and move it around a little bit, add a little water, because again, there's water in this brush, so you can just do that and sort of move that around a little bit. You know, push it to the edge or whatever you want to do. So there's that. Then, let's see, what are we going to do next? I've got my bigger circle here. This one. So I'm going to make sure that I am in frame. Okay, yeah. Move down a little bit more. So for this one, what I had done was that I started with my lightest color because I didn't want it to get muddy. And again, I'm using the same sort of color palette. My glass media mat is a lifesaver. Let me tell you, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Because it's wide, this has a 14-inch span just on the part that you can see here with the measurements. And on the other side, it has this little palette, if you will, where I'm supposed to put my inks over there, but I'm left-handed. This came out before the left-handed mat, so I wish that I had the other one, but if I turn this upside down, my measurements are going to be backwards, which for me is not an issue because I do tend to read from right to left. However, if you're looking at it from the screen, the numbers would be, you know, it'd be crazy. So, to answer your question, I really like it. But it's very useful because you can see I just wipe away. I start again with my color. I feel like my colors are always fresh when I'm using my background here. And this is what I do, is I just, you know, place my color here, and if I can find my, here it is. Can use my brush, you know, add some water to it drop by drop or by spraying it, however, you know, and then I can go to town. So, but I did mention I started with my lightest first, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start out with my yellow. Oh, good, good, Sandra. I'm glad you're still with us. So I'm just going to pounce this here. It might be difficult to see on screen, but it is there. And again, I'm just going to load my brush with it. And now I'm just going to go into these little sea stars here, because that's where I started with my other one, just to make sure that I had the brightest color there, because that's the most solid shape here, and I wanted to have that little pop of light color against the blue, because of course blue, and hear me, but I'm reconnecting again. So I am so sorry for this strange connection that I'm having today. This is the first time this has happened on a live for me. So I apologize for my lack of good internet service. It's because of where I live, and I'm sure of it. Oh, good. I'm glad you can hear me. All right, so all I did was place the yellow first. Okay. Then I'm continuing on with, actually I needed a little more of that yellow. So let me make sure, because this is what I'm doing here, is I'm strategically placing the color here and there. So there's another little star here, smaller one. And of course, I'm just showing you guys one, but you could just as easily have 4 or 5 of these all on your mat here. That's the other thing I was going to say, is that this will fit quite a quantity of paper, and then you could just be coloring every single one of them. So talk about, you know, paint by numbers. This is exactly the same type of skill, I suppose, if you're going to call it that. It's the same, you know, thought process. You're just selecting where you're going to place your color. So then I have also, let me see here, I'm looking at my other one for reference. I'm going to go ahead and go in with this blue. And I'm going to, I guess I had a bit more water there than I thought. Just going to go on the perimeter here, but focusing on this bigger shell as well. And I'm hoping this isn't too washed out, but I'll be showing you guys a close-up as soon as I'm done. Okay, but as you can tell, I'm not being terribly careful, because I'm just layering color wet on wet here. And before that gets too dry, I'm going to go in with another shade of blue. This is Mermaid Lagoon, very appropriately named for the project we're working on, of course. And I'm still grabbing that other lighter blue because I'm blending it on the side. And then that way you can see here that it starts getting a little bit darker. And if you don't like how dark it is, of course, like I said before, you can layer on top. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but you can layer color on color with the oxides without losing that initial color you had placed down. But you have to wait for that to be dry. So that's what, you know, another cool feature about these inks is that they mimic a watercolor, but they act differently, and I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I've got my 2 blues there, and of course I'm going to hit it up with a little bit of green, so I'm just going to clean this up. Oh, bonsoir, Veronique. Thank you for joining us. That's the extent of my French. Thank you for being here. We are playing around with oxide inks. Right now this is the Cracked Pistachio. And of course you could probably tell even here when adding water, how it lightens up all of a sudden. It's just such a cool effect of what happens there. And this I'm moving kind of closer to the center here. So I'm staying away from the border. I'm just going in on that inner edge and moving it around. And then I'm gonna have just one more color to add in a moment here. Let's see here, I'm almost done. I'm just making sure that I covered everything. And I am going to do the center now also, just the middle here. And again, that's just a wash of color just to eliminate the white. So if you were to layer, just to mention something really quickly, if you wanted to layer, say, an orange on top of that yellow, then different inks and technique. Oh, okay. All right, thank you, Phil. Well, as I said before, this channel is called Paints and Glitter, and I have not really delved into the paint aspect of it, sadly, because other things have come up. But I'm going to try to see how, you know, how to meet certain obligations that I have and still kind of delve more into that because it is something that I enjoy. But I highly encourage you guys, you know, when I post a video, to maybe skip through the parts that are familiar to you, because I do try to share as many tips as possible when I'm crafting live, as, you know, whatever I've learned. So okay, so I mentioned I had one more color to add to this, and that's going to be, I think it was Abandoned Coral. And thank God it's right here. So this is just going to be a tiny little touch of this, because we're not going into that direction as far as colors are concerned, but you sometimes need just a tiny little pop here and there. And that's all going to blend in nicely also. Okay, grabbing that again. That way I'm not tempted to keep using the same color. Sometimes that's why I refer to that as kind of erasing the board. Sometimes you have to do that to remind yourself what color palette you're using. Is if you find that you've put too much of that color, kind of just get rid of it. And those are just my ways of looking at things, of course. That's not a general rule. All right. Okay, this is horrible. I don't know if anyone's even still there. Oh, it feels like a show tune. Oh my goodness. I don't know if anyone is still with me. I see 4 people. Wow, I don't know. Yes, we lost connection. Oh my goodness. Lord have mercy. All right, so let me show you what I did while I was suspended in midair. Oh my goodness gracious. So Sandra, since you're still here. Oh no. It keeps going bleep, 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 bleep. So, and you know, this is the first time this has happened to me on a live, so I am so sorry, guys. But I did add more color. I just kept going with it, going with it, going with it. What I was doing was layering color on color, layering yellow on yellow, green on green, blue on blue, and then a little bit of purple here and there, just to bring out the shadows of the colors that I had added with the what's it called? The Abandoned Coral. Oh, I can't even talk. So I'm so sorry, guys. It's I had no control over that. Now, I don't want this to start looking muddy, so I'm going to leave it alone. And what I'm going to do now is adhere my layers. And of course this needs some time to dry, but I can hit it with my heat gun, of course. But that's all I did was I used little colors from here and I went over what I had done with the oxides, and then the whole reaction of it is what's really cool is when you start adding watercolors onto your oxides, it just creates a really cool effect. So, okay. All right, so now I'm coming back to this. I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to my background. I'm just going to choose this one. And this is a little bit more green than what I had done before. But I think what I'll do is that I'm going to add a little bit more blue to it with this here. Now this is completely dry, but I can definitely layer, even though I had painted on it, because of the fact that it's dry. If it were wet, I wouldn't recommend it, because then you're kind of going to get a little bit of glitter on your tool there, or you'll run the chance that that'll happen. But just going here and here, opposite ends if you will, adding a tiny bit of this Blueprint Sketch is this color, just because I'm trying to stay in the blue family. So that adds another layer there. Oh lordy. I appreciate you for sticking with me, even if you had to walk away and come back. But this is going to layer on top like so. So I'm just going to adhere that. And here you could definitely add, if you wanted to, you could add acetate behind it. That's up to you. I am going to adhere this, and I've recently been using this Barely Art adhesive, and I have to say I'm quite pleased. Between this and the Art Glitter glue, I would say they're comparable. They're both really high quality adhesives for heavier paper. So I'm just placing a little bit of adhesive here in key areas, and when I feel like I have enough, I'll go ahead and place it down. And the cool thing is that it does dry clear. So now I'm just going to select here, where do I think this will look best, and there we go. I think in order to have some contrast, then what I'll do is to place where I had colored her in yellow closer to the blue background there. Yeah, so Sandra, the benefit of this one is that I actually left it unclogged or uncovered overnight, and it didn't clog. So I'm really happy about that, even though I still used that stainless steel needle that came with it. I just adhered some beads on top so I wouldn't lose it. But thank you, merci Veronique, I appreciate that. So the reason I pointed this out is because when you're using something so delicate and so small, if I were to do yellow on yellow, it would have gotten lost. You wouldn't see this, it wouldn't stand out. The same over here. If I went through the trouble of adding so much color to something, I want it to kind of pop for, you know, the recipient to be able to see it. So the next step, of course, is to add this to the background, and there's where the glitter paper comes in, but this is still a little bit wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it with my gun here, and bear with me, it's only going to take a moment. So Alright, so another cool thing about this mat, it tolerates heat very well. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that this is nice and flat. Alright, and because this is mixed media paper, it might buckle a tiny little bit, but once all of the moisture evaporates from the paper, it'll lay back flat. So what I'm going to do is apply more adhesive here to the center. With the other one, I didn't even bother applying adhesive on the edge. I just placed as much as I could there on the center, and then on my little stars like this. I think that's as much as I did with the other one. Maybe on the little stars too. Like that. Okay. Now you can also spray this. If you have spray, you can splatter it. That's the word I was looking for, sorry. You can splatter it, you can spray it, whatever technique you like. So I'm just gonna go ahead and follow the edges here, even though there's no adhesive on the edge, but I do want to make sure that it looks nice, because I might change my mind and add a little more adhesive later. But that looks good. Now I can burnish this. Okay. So now that I have that in place, I'm actually going to use some foam adhesive for my next piece, if I can find it. Bear with me 1 second, just trying to make sure that I find what I need here. Yep, here it is. Okay, so I'm just going to use some pieces of foam adhesive here for my little mermaid that's going to go in the center. And applying one piece here. In fact, I might just do smaller pieces and then make sure that they're on all sides. Okay, so I'm just going to remove that. So what I was saying when I got rudely disconnected by my internet was that in order to do kind of like ink or paint tutorials, I would like some feedback, if you guys have the time to leave it in the comment, as to what kind of questions do you have when it comes to those types of mediums, because it helps me to know what is it that people are looking for. Okay, so I'm going to place her just like this. And then the last touch that I did with this on my other card was that I used my Nuvo drops, and I have 3 different colors here, and this was also to add texture and shine. So just to introduce the blue again, I'm just going to add, now this is very light, and of course you can use whatever colors you like, but I just popped a little bit of blue here and there with that on the mermaid. New to painting, Sandra? Do you own any paints? Any at all? Any watercolor, any dry kind of paint, or acrylics? Because each one is different. Okay, so I'm going here on the tail with the green. I'm gonna see my other tail here. Yeah, I think I kept it quite simple with that, because again, I have many of these to make, so I started off quite simple. And a little bit of green here. Because I would say the best way to get acquainted with them, of course, is to get them out and play. Just make something small that is for your own personal reference, and then you can also, of course, take note as to what it was that you made. That's why journals are so wonderful, because they give you the opportunity to learn from your own experiences, you know. And okay, so I've got my yellow on there, and I think that was all that I did. I may have added a little bit of blue here to these other stars, just in the center there. But this was the gist of it. This was as far as I went with the other one, other than just placing the background which of course was just a white piece of cardstock, but that is my result. And that's how I used oxide inks and watercolors to make this gorgeous little mermaid card. Let me see if I can, here we go. Hopefully, let me stand up so that I know that, okay, here we are. All right, so that's how I was able to make this. And of course, the glitter paper has all of those colors in it as well, so it kind of picks up on that. But this was a lot of fun. I do apologize for my internet, you know, my intermittent signal. I wish that I could do something about that. Yes, I agree with you, Sandra. Not enough time or hands. But if you keep, for instance, a really small journal, even if the let me show you something really quickly before I let you guys go. All right. There are challenges that you can join. In fact, there's one going on right now. Thank you, Sandra. There's one going on right now where you can, now mind you, I just did this on my own. I cut pieces of paper down to 4x4, where you can get a prompting every day. This was the first day, which was, it was in Spanish. So I think the word was remojo, which means to soak. And this was what came to mind to me. So I did a little painting of a little girl soaking in a bathtub. Now, it's not even entirely complete because I didn't do my lining or anything, but this was just playing around with watercolor. So that's something that you can do, is that have a prompt every day. And then what you do, you know, the next day, say, I think the next one was something like ice cream. Now, of course, I went away and came back home and here's my blank pages, of course, but I can catch up at any time, because even if I draw something that's 2 inches by 2 inches, as long as I follow that prompting, I can get it done and then move on to my next one. The idea, of course, is to push yourself and have, yes, I did, Sandra, I draw my own stuff. So, it's, yeah, stay tuned for that, because there's going to be more coming along with that. But let me show you another sample of what I mean. And hold on one second, because I may or may not knock things over. But this is a mixed media piece that I did, and all I did was play around with paints. And now mind you, this is very striated because I scanned her into my computer and then printed it out. So the quality of paper wasn't even that great. But I just wanted to have fun that day, and I did a live video, so if you want to refer back to this, you can, where I just used what I had painted, and I added all these colors and, you know, laces and all that, and that's just fun. It's just a good way of kind of getting over the fear. Now, I did not have a plan when I started that. I just had materials, and sometimes jumping in to, thank you, Sandra, sometimes jumping into something that seems very scary can actually push you to that next level where you need to go, so that you get over the fear of trying something new and discover something that you might not even know you absolutely love. So that's just my encouragement, of course, for anyone who watches this channel, because that's what we're here for, you know. So yeah, let me show you my other, this was the other one, right? So I managed to make 2, which they're a little bit different. This one's leaning more toward yellow, so I might have to go back and add a little more blue to this one. But, you know, that's kind of fun, you know, just to see the differences and how they, you know, using the same materials, you can get such a variety, of course, you know, and I just hope that this has been a fun video for you. I do appreciate those of you who stuck with me. Sandra, I so appreciate you stopping by. Veronique, merci. Also, Philip. Who else was here? I'm having to look back here. The Crafty Sensei. And I think there was someone else. And I apologize if I don't remember your name. But yeah, thank you so much for supporting this channel, for joining me, and I hope that if you have any questions regarding to paints or anything crafty, leave them in my in the commentary, or if you don't want to make it public, of course, I don't have to do that, but you can do it through email also, and I'll be happy to share any tricks or tips or any advice that I've learned, because of course I'm learning just like anyone else. So as I say all the time, I hope that you guys are inspired and that you can be blessed, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great afternoon. Bye bye.